Hello everybody, this is Cheri at DJ Sundries, and today we are going to make another tag. Now this tag is going to be combining simple stamping, simple watercoloring, and a very simple die. And this is a set that we're using. Now I made a variation of each of these, and I will be sure and post a picture at the end of the variation because I used each one of these images to create different types of tags. This is a Tim Holtz set, and what I like about it is that it's, as I mentioned, it's simple because it's just a one layer cut. You can do as much embellishing on your deer as you would like, but for me, I just wanted the simple deer. This is actually set 664968. So I do hope you check it out. I just thought it was a great little set. Now, the stamping that I'm using, will be using this set from Simon Says Stamp. Now, I wanted this big Christmas tree, not the snowbank or anything, just the Christmas tree or, you know, the outdoorsy tree, because I am going to make a very simple outdoor theme with these things. So we are going to start with our stamping. So I have my stamp press all set up and ready to go. I've got the image in here, and I am going to stamp this with Rustic Wilderness Distress ink. And so I'm just going to set that aside while I set up my tag. I do have one of these craft tags sitting on the side. I've already stamped the front and the back like I have with the rest of the series. And I am going to line this up at the 2-inch mark. And the reason I chose that is when I was doing some of these earlier, I found that I had a hard time with this image giving me a really clean image when I had it all the way up against the side here. And so I thought that maybe if I would have better luck if I kind of slid my tag over. I did discover that it does take a bit of pressure in the middle to make sure that I'm getting a good stamped image. So I'm kind of off camera here because you're not really going to be able to see it, most likely. I am going to ink up my stamp. Now, I am not worried about separating out the tree trunk or anything like that. I am just going to stamp it all over in green because it really won't matter for the next phase. Now, if you notice that going on the tag, you'll see that it's off-centered. That is by design because I kind of wanted the tree to come over to the left just a little bit. I did not want it to be in the center of my tag. It's not a lot off-centered. It's just barely off-centered, but for the look I was going for, that was the best look. And so actually we have a really clean image here. I'm satisfied with that for our next steps. So I'm just going to take a baby wipe I have sitting over here. Just give this a quick swipe just because I don't want to get my platform green. And then I'll just dab that up by just putting a paper towel under it and setting it aside, and we're good to go. So the next step is some simple watercoloring. So what I am doing, you'll notice this is not watercolor paper. And since it's not watercolor paper, I don't want to put a lot of water. So we're going to be doing a bit of a dry brush, kind of semi-dry brush technique. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Forest Moss Distress ink, and I am just going to put it down on my little palette here. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing with my Rustic Wilderness. I didn't want either of the greens. I wanted a combination of them. And then I've already done the same thing with using Gathered Twigs Distress ink on this little stamp block just to have it separated. And it actually, I had made some more of these, and this was getting a lot lighter and washed out, whereas the brown I need so little, I have plenty. And it's all dry. I mean, I wouldn't want to stick my hand in it because you would probably end up a mess, but it's dry enough. It's just been sitting on my desk till I could get back to it. So I'm going to take my distress sprayer and I'm going to give it just a little spritz of water to reactivate that ink and make sure that I have a good piece of ink to go with. Now I'm going to take a very tiny brush. I believe this is probably I'm guessing it's probably a size 0 or a size 2 maybe. I'm not sure. I'm going to just put a little bit of water on it just to get my paintbrush wet, and then I'm going to dab off as much of that extra water as I can, because again, I want it to be very, very dried. I don't want a lot of water to saturate this tag. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go in and I'm going to just grab the trunk. Now, if it gets a little bit over, honestly, it's supposed to be reminiscent of a tree in the forest. I don't care if it goes over a little bit. That kind of adds to the watercolor look of that. So there's our trunk all ready to go. I'm going to just kind of wave this. It's such a dry brush. I think I'll be okay. If you were going in with wetter, you would definitely want to dry it, hit it with your heat tool or let it sit for a while, because you don't want your greens to get in there and get muddy. But I think I'm going to be okay with this one, and I'll be real careful and work from the outside in. So now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to activate these. Now, this would be perfect if you had the mini cubes, because you really don't need as much ink as what the regular cube put down. But I'm going to kind of blend them into each other a little bit so I can get more of a muted green. This green was too bright, this green was too brownish dull, but together I felt like they were a good color for my tree. So now I'm just going to, this is a little flat brush. I liked it for doing these, and I could get down into this edge really well. And you may notice that I also, after dipping it, you know, you want to dab off, and I'm not sure I dabbed off as much as I should have on this, because this is even a little bit wetter of an application than I would prefer. Plus the inks are really wet. I probably should have kind of backed off on the water a little bit, but I think we're going to be fine. Sometimes I go in and I pick up a little bit of that darker green, just because I want to have a little bit of contrast in there that I can drop in. But the idea is just to quickly paint your tree. Now, it may seem like this is a little bit involved. It's really not. This tag is actually very quick to put together, because not only are you just doing a quick little wash of color, and you know, you're picking up that green from the stamp anyway, but also the die cut is going to go on very simply. And so you could actually, this would probably be a good one to mass produce. If you wanted to spend a little bit more time and attention to detail to it, you could take a small blending brush and you could kind of blend out your deer and add some highlights of different browns or whatever to give shadows and stuff on your die cut. There's just so many possibilities that you can do with this very, very simple set. And that's what I wanted to do. I also didn't want to spend a lot of time on this one because I just wanted to be able to quickly get in and do it. So I like this. I like the variation of the colors. If I wanted to go back in and drop a little bit more color into it with different variations, I could do that. However, I'm not going to do that at this time. We're just going to let this dry and use this one for our tag. Now, because I don't want to pull out the heat tool right now and go ahead and dry that, which you could, it literally will probably take less than 5 minutes to dry on its own, because I tried to go as dry as I did. But so that we don't have to wait, I have a second one sitting here ready to go. So the next thing is I have chosen for this one, this big buck. Now, sometimes I use the buck that was head down, and then sometimes I use the mother and the fawn. And again, those pictures will be at the end of the video. But then I ran them through the Xyron. So it made them already sticky and ready to go to even speed up the process a little bit more. And this is where you see why I wanted that tree off-centered a little bit, because there's not a huge amount of contrast to between the manila tag, the color of the tree, and the deer. There's a little bit, and it looks really nice, and it's very simple, but there's not a huge contrast. And I wanted a place so that you could see that he had a head, not that he was lost in the tree. So that's why I had kind of off-centered it. And when you're thinking about how you want to place your image, you want to think about, okay, how am I going to place the image that I'm using to the best advantage to get the most of both of my stamps, my my stamp and my die together. So, but for me, again, we're going simple. So I just pulled this, and then I went into my ribbon stash and I found this ribbon. And I thought, this is kind of fun. That little green in the center is really close to Rustic Wilderness. And so I thought, I'm just going to use it. I like that different fun print, and I'm going to use it on this tag. That doesn't mean that I'm using it on the others that I did, because you know, when you're working on tags, that's one of the fun things, that you can use up your little stash of ribbon if you have some little bits and bobs to go ahead and help you know which ribbon you want to use up, just to be able to run through and start fresh next year, you know. However, also pay attention to the type of ribbon that you're using. I let the ribbon kind of help me determine what I'm doing with my tying. Some ribbon looks better as a bow, and I think this one's going to be one of those that I'm going to really like as a bow. Other ribbon just isn't it because of its thickness, whether it's the you know, the weight of the material used to make the ribbon, or whether it's the you know, the stiffness. I noticed that some of my ribbons were more stiff. I even had one ribbon that was old, and it was backed with a sticky back, and I didn't even know it did, and the sticky back was no longer sticky. And so it was one that I ended up, you know, kind of shaping and molding in a different way, but definitely not making it sticky. So that is it, our simple tag. Now on some of these, this would be a great place for a red ribbon, just to give you that contrast and that little pop of color. But for this one, I just wanted a simple little green. You'll see a couple of other red ones too. And so that is the process for this video. I mean, for this tag. Simple, fun. I know that the guys in my life would probably like it, just simply because my family has a great fondness for the deer and the elk and the different things. And so this really matches my family well. So if I was putting this on one of my packages, it would be perfect for one of the men in my life. So thanks so much for stopping by today. Be sure and check out this technique and make some simple tags of your own. And remember, take some time to enjoy the little things. Have a great day. Bye.